Why are 60% of all adults in the U.S. single? It is a surprise to anyone that over 60% of adults in the U.S. are single. That number is actually staggering. It's shocking. But when you realize the reasons, it is not very surprising at all. So why are over 60% single? You're probably still trying to wrap your mind around that number because it's so big. The majority of adults in the U.S. are single. That fact can be very sobering to most people. Many of you would probably be asking yourself, could that really be true? Most of you never even gave it much thought. You didn't even realize that number was so big, but it's true. So how could this be so? Does anyone know? Yes, I know. And it's not a single answer. And it's not entirely simple either. There are many different reasons. So let me explain. I want to welcome you to this speech on the state of relationships in the United States and elsewhere for that matter. We're going to examine the problem, and I'm going to provide several different reasons why this hard to believe but true reality exists. The reasons that I give you is not exhaustive, but simply a few examples. I don't need a man. It is amazing how many women have the audacity to utter these words. Most of them don't mean it, but they simply say it out of frustration. A small percentage of women actually mean it when they say it. They just don't realize that it is an absurd notion. It is not only human nature, but for those of you who are religious, you cannot dispute the fact that it is divine. It is the intention of God or the Creator, as well as Mother Nature, that men and women form unions and to procreate. Men need women and women need men. Every intelligent, rational person understands this. The problem is that with the contemporary science of allowing women to freeze their eggs and use sperm donors and all these other artificial means of having children without a man is what promotes this false notion to a lot of women. The irony is that even if you elect to use some artificial means, it still relies on a man because that man or some man must provide the sperm. But those women who think those are the reasons why they don't need a man are very confused, because those instruments offer the purpose of having babies. But this is not about having babies. The point here is about men and women having a union and complementing each other. Every woman needs a man, and every man needs a woman. Because you say you don't need a man doesn't make it true. And it's not true. We need to change this mindset. It is completely natural for a man and a woman to have that union. And then you have the women who put their careers ahead of a family. They procrastinate or deliberately decide that they're going to wait until a certain age. And that really works out. Why? When women do this, they are believing that when the time arrives, they will be ready. Being ready to them means having that perfect man in that White House and that picket fence, etc. But what happens when you don't have that perfect man at that time? Then what? Now you are delaying. You can't delay forever. And the next thing you know, you still don't have that right guy. And then you miss that window of opportunity. Or, because you're desperate, you settle for something less than what you want, just to have a man with whom to procreate. And it's the wrong man, so the relationship doesn't last. And now you have a broken home. And now it becomes much more difficult to find another man because you have a child already by a previous man. And you're not getting any younger. And the fact that you waited until the last minute to have a child, with the wrong man, by the way, now you're too old to have children with the next man you find. All of that leads to frustration. And that frustration causes you to say a whole lot of wild statements that are not true. And you don't even mean it. So the question becomes, are you trying to convince me, or are you trying to convince yourself? I remember Oprah Winfrey, for many years, always said that she was happy being fat. She said she was happy with her body and had no desire to lose weight. But that was a lie. And years later, she admitted that. And so when women make these wild statements about not needing a man, not only is it not true, but it is no more convincing than it is when Oprah Winfrey said she was happy being fat. If you can't be honest with yourself, you're going to have a difficult time being honest with other people. Hurt and hurting. A lot of women cannot handle a lot of hurt, a lot of injury in multiple relationships. Many women have multiple failed relationships that involved being hurt, whether it be physical or mental or emotional. They can only take so much. Tired of being hurt and tired of hurting. And from this place, they make these erroneous statements that they don't need a man. They don't want a man. Every woman needs a man, no doubt about that. Now, it's possible you may not want a man, but you definitely need a man. If you're not honest enough with yourself, then maybe you need some counseling. And when you say that you don't want a man, that's plausible. It's definitely true for a lot of women, but it's not a permanent feeling. For a variety of reasons, you may really not want a man, but later you will get over those issues and you will start wanting a man again, but you may continue to express that you don't want one because you haven't found one yet. Instead of just saying that you are failing, that you are unsuccessful in finding a compatible mate, you don't want anyone to know about that failure. So you say, I don't want a man right now. When you transition from truly not wanting one to actually wanting one, but unable to find the right one. But you need to be able to acknowledge that, to be able to be willing to seek assistance in reaching your goal. You don't know how to find the right person. You are not alone. Most men and women do not know how to find the right person. And they can't get the right information from their parents because their parents don't know. We have addressed this before, and there is a generational cycle of ignorance. But don't deprive yourself of happiness because you refuse to acknowledge what is real. You are not alone. There are millions of people in the same shoes. And if you're thinking that the advice is not available because you're having encountered a lack of that advice, of sound advice from the sources you have contacted, doesn't mean the information is not available. I can assure you that the information is available because I have made it available. The official dating formula. That is the ultimate guide to dating. Emphasis on the word formula. So avail yourself of this blueprint, this ultimate guide. If you follow this formula that I have to the letter, you will dramatically increase your chances of finding a compatible mate. I want you to know that there is hope for everyone. You just have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to be a student. And in this case, we're talking about being a student of dating. The ultimate professor is right here. The professor of love, Dr. Debonair. I have spent years counseling many people individually and repeating myself over and over. The smartest thing to do was to take that wisdom and put it in the book so everyone can access that knowledge without my having to repeat myself a million times. I guarantee you that if you follow this formula, you will save yourself a lot of headaches, a lot of heartbreaks, a lot of hurt, a lot of your time, and certainly a lot of money. The price of the book is a fraction of the amount of money you will save if you simply purchase the book and follow the formula. Now, I could easily go on and on with countless different reasons why over 60% of the adults in the U.S. are single. I just want to give you a few examples. So far, I've been talking about women. So let's turn our attention to the men for a moment. Respect, or lack thereof. When you have so many women frustrated and tired of dealing with men, then it makes it more difficult for the man to find a woman. Men need to understand that for the most part, the way women feel and their disposition or reactions. Women didn't wake up one day and just start being frustrated and tired of men. Men made them feel this way. And I can give a few examples, but they all fall under the heading of lack of respect. This is a big problem among men in this society. We all have heard the news about Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy. We've seen the video of him physically abusing a woman. We've seen videos of him verbally abusing women. Do you think he's alone? No. This misbehavior that he has displayed is a learned behavior. He's not alone at all. There are many men in this life and scattered around the country who behave this way. They're not being held responsible for their actions. These men don't have a strong father to be able to correct that behavior. This behavior is 100% wrong, and I am telling all the men right now, if you see any man in public abusing a woman in this way, you need to intervene. That conflict that led up to that abuse may not be your business. You will not know the root of the problem. But if you are witnessing the manifestation of the underlying problem, which is the abuse, as a man, you have a duty to intervene. That means that men need to police each other. We must teach each other, teach other men who did not receive proper training how a woman should be treated. Now, that doesn't mean that all women are innocent, because we know that there's a lot of women who really cross the line. But that's another conversation, and I will address that in another speech. But in most cases, the women have not done anything so severe that it justifies abuse. We have to start holding men accountable. We must police each other. Of course, the man who is guilty will be quick to say, "This is not your business. This is my woman. Stay out of my business," and other nonsense like that. Yes, it can be volatile trying to play hero, but that is what is necessary. Extreme times calls for extreme measures. Of course, you need to be cautious. You don't want to act without thinking. You want to be careful. You want to be safe. You don't want to approach the situation haphazardly, and that abusive guy happens to have a gun or some other weapon and may kill you. But the potential for those few occasions should not deter you. I know that not every man has the backbone and the fortitude to intervene in every situation. Some men will feel intimidated. If you're intimidated, seek the assistance of other men that are nearby. But intervene. Have the courage to intervene. I will address the specific topic of abuse in another speech, but right now I'm just giving examples as to why so many people are single. As I said earlier, the disposition of the women who feel like they don't need a man, or at least they express that. For most of those women, it is a reaction because too many men fail to conduct themselves in a professional manner. And I'm not talking about corporate professional. I mean the colloquialism of the word professional to mean in a dignified and respectful manner. Women are tired of that behavior because of lack of responsibility and lack of accountability and poor messaging from mainstream entertainment and other sources. We have normalized casual profanity. We have children using profanity without any accountability, without any correction. We have normalized allowing our adult children to use profanity in our presence. That's not right. All of these mistakes have cultivated a mental culture among men to behave in unthinkable ways that would not have been tolerated 50 years ago. Men need to start acting like men, not like adolescents. Act like you have some training. You have to respect women. Even when some of those women get beside themselves. We know plenty of women who get out of line, but that doesn't justify your obnoxious behavior. You have to set the example for everybody because you are a man. How can you consider yourself the head of household or the head of a relationship when you can't be a positive example for everyone? It is time to look in the mirror and recognize that your behavior is not right. Every man should be striving to be a gentleman. Many will fall short, but make every effort. If you can't be a gentleman, at least try to embody some of the characteristics of a gentleman. Respect women. Protect women. If you're not protecting and respecting women, then you will never be able to maintain a healthy relationship with a good woman. If you need to hold a woman hostage in the house in order to control her, that's not a healthy relationship. And that does not make you strong. It means that you're weak. I'm not going to use any profanity or any derogatory terms because I am a gentleman. But if I wasn't a gentleman, you can imagine the names I would call you. I don't have any respect at all for any man who abuses women, who disrespects women. If you have a problem with a woman and you don't like her attitude or her behavior, then separate yourself from her. Don't respond to her behavior with your own. But the point that I'm trying to make to you, men, is that in most cases, men are responsible for all of these women who feel jaded. Men created these monsters that women have become. For the most part, their behavior and disposition is a simple reaction to the misbehavior of men who are being very disrespectful as a routine. If you have a woman who gets out of line a little bit, and your reaction is to be disrespectful or abusive, that tells me you are stupid. If you have a 10-year-old child who gets out of line, are you going to beat up that 10-year-old child? If the child is 3 years old, are you going to beat him up? In most cases, the answer is no. Why will you not beat up the 10-year-old child? Because you see that child is being defenseless. A woman may be an adult, but for most women, they are defenseless against most men. The average woman cannot fight the average man. No different than a child. Women need to feel safe. They need to feel confident that men will not take advantage of that disparity. If a woman is at home in a relationship and doesn't feel safe in that type of way, that is a major problem. And men have caused that problem. It needs to stop. I could go on and on with many examples of things that men do to contribute to the fact that over 60% of adults in the United States are single. But to go into each example would be a speech of its own. There is so much that can be said about each particular cause that contributes to this statistic. If I was trying to address all these issues in one speech, I would be here all day. But people need to think about these examples I've given them and also think about others that I have not mentioned. If you have questions, feel free to send an email. If you want me to give a speech about a particular topic or subject, you can make that request. Go to the website. My mission is to educate everybody on the proper way to date. I want to elevate everyone's game and at the same time level the playing field. If we change the way we date, that 60% will decrease dramatically. We will have very few bad relationships and broken homes. All of this strife is having a major adverse impact on the children and society at large. So we need to fix this. We need to learn how to date. For those of you who have already read a few books on relationships, you have learned that they don't teach you much. If you read one, you read them all, because they're so generic, so vague. None of them are comprehensive, and none of the authors are experts. And so you just get tired of going to books for help because you think all of the books are a waste of time. That's not the case anymore. I guarantee you that my book, The Official Dating Formula, is much different than any other book that has ever been written on the subject of relationships. I don't think you're going to be able to find anyone who can match my experience and my insights. It may be someone out there, somewhere on the planet, but you would be hard-pressed to find that person, if that person even exists. I have dated over 2,000 women, and I have learned a wealth of information and insights from those experiences. So be a sponge and absorb all of this knowledge and wisdom that I have for you. Thank you for your time.